For the hundreds in attendance and the millions watching on Facebook and YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, live from Santa Cruz Bible, Santa Cruz, California, let's get ready to rumble!
Awesome, man. We're so glad that you are with us, and I don't know about millions online, but hey, why not, right? My name is Matt Roden, and I want to thank everybody that's with us and joining us online or in person. If you're watching this version of the Facebook and YouTube, or if you're watching the live service on our website or app, whatever it is, we're so glad that you are with us. And listen, you picked a perfect time to join us if you're new or if you haven't been in a while or whatever, because we're starting a brand new series this weekend. It's called Ready to Rumble. Now, I want you to catch this. This is why we have this ring sitting here out in the service. I don't know if you can see this, but they're actually using this in the live services, and I didn't want the folks online to feel ripped off because this is a real ring, real ropes kind of a situation up here, so it's going to be awesome. But we'll pull it back over here for now. And you may be wondering, what is this series about? What are we talking about? We're going to be talking about conflict, and conflict between you and the ones that you love. Now, that's not a topic we like to talk about, but it's an area where we all need help. And what I'm talking about is conflict between spouses, conflict between family, between parents and kids, between friends, those type of things, just the people that are important to you. Because the relationships, honestly, that mean the most are the ones that mess us up the most when there's conflict there. And with my family, I can say this when it comes to conflict. We have 4 kids. So anyone who's hung out at our home or anyone who's stayed the weekend at our home can describe our home in one word. And that word is loud. Okay, it's just it's a loud house. Everyone's talking. People are shouting across the room like, I can't find my shoes. And it's just that kind of stuff all the time. I mean, it's just the way it is. And my kids and our whole family is like this. We have strong opinions, right? And we love to share them. And we talk loud like that. It just happens. My wife, by the way, God bless her, she brings so much order and peace to our home. I don't know what we would do without her. But there are times where her and I look at each other and we just realize we're just simply outnumbered. That's just the situation. For example, with my family, just describing what conflict's like. Conflict, the way we view it, is it's like a party. For some reason, when a conflict happens, we feel the need to invite other people. We're like, this would be way more fun if more people were here. Or we invite ourselves into that party. For example, 2 kids are fighting, and then one comes up and just has an opinion out of nowhere, and now they're involved. And then a parent comes in and hears it, right? And then they're like, well, blah, blah. They say what they're thinking, then now there's 4 people involved. And so it very quickly goes from 2 to 6. And I've never figured out a way out of this, because if I say something, I'm in it, right? And if I don't say anything, then eventually what's going to happen is someone's going to ask me, what do you think? And then I'm going to say it, and then, there we go, right? I'm in it again, kind of a thing. But my house shows the principle really, and reminds me of that you can't avoid or ignore conflict. And you shouldn't. I cannot tell you how many times I've met couples who've been married a long time, and they tell me this, and they go, we've just never had a disagreement or a fight. And I just want to look at them and go, what planet are you from? How is that even possible? And I know that it happens, right? You get peacemakers that meet other peacemakers, and they just go make a bunch of peace or whatever. I get it. But that scares me, okay? To never have a disagreement and never have a fight, that just bothers me, right? I don't like it when someone looks at me and says, that's fine, and they have that weird smile and that dead look behind the eyes, and I don't like that at all, because I'm thinking either they're stuffing their feelings, which is not good, or I'm going to get stuffed in a body bag later, because, you never know, right, kind of thing. So I don't like that. But here's the thing. I'm not sure what conflict you may be facing today. Maybe there's static between you and a family member right now, between you and your spouse, between you and one of your kids or your parents, or maybe a friend, just somebody that's important to you. And I want to give you something very helpful today. And I'm being mindful of the fact that some of you may be out here and you go, well, I don't know if I need this today. Well, you need to keep what I'm going to give you, because at some point you're going to need this, and you're going to be glad that you have it. And what I'm going to give you today, these come from the Bible. It's 3 things that I call home essentials. Now, we're familiar with the term home essentials, especially when you move in a home. There's just essentials you need to have that make your life a lot easier. You know, tables and chairs and soap and trash cans and, you know, glassware, cookware, silverware, whatever. You know, we gotta have these things in the house, right? Because they're going to make life a lot easier. And I seriously believe if you move toward these 3 things I'm about to talk about, these 3 home essentials, that life at home will be easier. Now, these home essentials, let me give you a warning, they do not eliminate conflict at all, but they do give you a guide on how to handle it that will help in 2 ways. To consistently de-escalate conflict, which you want, right? You want to bring it down. And they will help you have conversations that will be a lot more calmer and a lot more civil. So if that sounds good to you, then let's look at these 3 home essentials. They all come from the same verse, which keeps it easy. Are you ready to see this? Let me show you. Okay, now I'm going to read it, and I'm telling you, your eyebrows are going to raise right after I read it. But here they are. Okay, James 1:19 says this: "You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry." I know you're thinking, that's it? Like, are you serious? That's all? James 1:19, but that's all? That's the 3 big things you were going to tell me about? I don't understand. No, but there's way more than meets the eye here. And we're going to unpack these, and you're going to find out the more we talk about these, the more things there are to unpack. I mean, it's crazy. These are easy to read, but very hard to do. They're not easy by any means. Regardless of your view, let's just be real for a second. Regardless of your view of Jesus, church, faith, I don't know, maybe somebody invited you to watch the service today and you're not sure how you think about this. Could you agree, just think about this. If you were quicker to listen, slower to speak, and slower to get angry, regardless of what you believe, wouldn't your relationships be better? I mean, this just makes sense, right? You just look at this and go, yeah, that makes sense. It's funny because we would say this Bible principle is common sense, but I would argue with that because that is not common. This is not common stuff. We don't do this, right? If we did this, the world would be a whole different place to live in, wouldn't it, if we were doing this? But we're not doing this, right? So what I want to do is I want to unpack these home essentials, talk about these a little bit more, kind of drill in so that you can begin to apply them into your life. And this first one, let's just kind of zone in on it. It's you all must be quick to listen. Now, this is very interesting to me in this verse because honestly, it tells you 2 times to slow down, slow to speak, slow to get angry. But one time it tells you to speed up, in a sense, like quicken this. We need to quicken our ability to listen. And what the Bible's talking about is kind of the language here is to make it a reflex. You know, you wouldn't look at me and think this, but I've done a little self-defense stuff before, you know, where they teach you, you practice these things over and over again. If someone grabs you, this is what you do. And the thing is, the reason why you practice those things like 1,000,000 times is so that it's like the automatic reflex in case this happens, because you're not going to have time to think. You just got to respond. You have a reflex reaction. And what the Bible's saying is, I love it's interesting, when someone is communicating with you, your reflex is to listen. But let me define listening. I know some of you are like, I know what the word listen means. I'm not stupid. No, let me define it this way. Let me just kind of stretch the word a little bit. Listening in our day and time would mean this: giving respect to a person by giving them these 2 words: focused attention. Now, I say that because you and I both know we do not live in a world where it's easy to focus and our attention's all over the place on our phone, everything. We're all over the place, right? But in all honesty, we give respect by giving focused attention. It's a choice to focus and receive what a person is saying, and you're honoring them by trying to receive it and really focusing in on that. That's the difference between hearing and listening. We hear what people are saying all the time, but listening is an active choice. It's a whole different thing. And you know this because we all know what it's like when no one's listening to you. Like, you know that feeling, right? You feel, nobody likes that feeling. Like, you're talking, but the other person's looking at their phone, yeah, whatever, and that drives you crazy. My favorite is the thing when you're talking to someone and they just immediately drift off while looking you right in the face. That's my favorite thing in the whole world, is when you're talking to someone and they're just like, and you just see them go into a trance and end up somewhere else, and you're like, I wonder when they're going to come back. I'm going to keep talking until they come back. I don't know what to do, right? Like, it happens. Like, we all don't like that feeling because you feel disrespected. You don't feel like they care about what you're saying. We just don't like that feeling. And I, like you, I struggle with this one. Yeah, I can tell you a couple ways I struggle with it. Sometimes I struggle with making eye contact, kind of thing, making sure, I have to work on that. Sometimes I think about what I'm going to say next. Do you ever do that? When someone's talking and you're thinking about what you're going to say, and you're not even hearing them anymore, you're just kind of, I do that too. Like, those are all areas I have to work on. Now, if you want to be better at listening, which I don't know anybody that doesn't, I can tell you 2 ways to improve it right now. And these are quick, easy things. And the 2 quick ways to improve listening, the first one is really simple. Put down the phone. You say it with me online. You ready to say it with me? Put down the phone. Like, it just, what? I mean, some of you are watching it right now, and you're watching something on your phone at the same time, right? Because I know the feeling of not being listened to, right? I'm having to like fight you right now over this cat video on YouTube, kind of thing. It's happening, what I mean? It really is. Like, it's just weird. But put down the phone. What's crazy about the smartphones, amazing invention, has made life so much easier, but has destroyed etiquette, like, completely. If there was any shred of it left, it has destroyed it. And I mean, people who were like really upset about people always being on their phones are now always on their phones. Like, everyone's come around, everyone's doing it. And when someone's talking to you, just put the phone down. Put the phone down. Prioritize a conversation over a notification. Does that make sense? Phones have the notifications so they can keep pulling you back, right? Boom, boom, I'm missing something important. Boom, boom, boom. And it's always trying to pull you back. And like, no, look at me, talk to me, love me, hold me, whatever. That's kind of what it's doing. That's why I've turned off so many notifications on my phone, because it drives me crazy, because I can't focus when something's always pinging or going off. It drives me crazy. And it's the same with that. We're talking to someone, oh, hold on a second, I've got something. Like we're the president or something, you know what I mean? Like, we're not that important, right? It's okay. We can wait 2 more minutes to see, whatever that ping is, that someone liked your picture. That's amazing, kind of thing. But we can do that. Like, put down the phone. I'm not trying to sound like some old fogey. I'm just saying that it's just part of listening. It's very hard to do. And the second one is this, very hard for me, don't interrupt. This is hard. This is so hard to do. Because I've told you earlier, my family, we speak our mind. So when I think something, I say it, like, boom, right? And sometimes when someone's talking, I get excited. Like, I get kind of puppy mode. I'm like, oh, me too. And then I just blah, blah, blah. And I just crash right into that, And then I think about it like 3 seconds later, going, oh, you interrupted. It's interrupting is not listening, right? It doesn't convey respect to the other person. It really doesn't. And respect should always be part of our response to anybody who's talking to us, right? Everyone wants to know that someone listened to them. We don't just want to be heard. We want to be listened to. And plus, when we listen, we learn, right? We're never learning when we're talking. It's just a fact, right? So that's a tough one, right? I know some of you are like, woo, I don't already like this one already. This is tough. Let's do the second one, okay? Maybe this one's maybe this one more speaks to you. And this is, you must all be slow to speak. Now, I recognize that I'm from Tennessee, and that does not mean speaking slow, okay? I'm going to go get that one out of the way. That doesn't mean you coming in going, honey, okay? That's not what that means, okay? Slow to speak means this. Think it over before you blurt it out. Have you ever had this moment? I wish I hadn't said that. We all have, of course you have. Like, we've all had that moment. And the thing is that when we are slow to speak, slow to let the words out, what that means is this, is that we're trying to keep away from regrets. We're trying to keep away from apologies. We're trying to keep away from embarrassment. We're really trying to keep away from hurting someone. that you love. Now, how do we do it? How do we do that? Well, this is a hard one. We have to take responsibility for how we respond. That's not intuitive. That's not something we like to do. We always say, well, I responded this way because what? You, right? We don't say because I chose to. We say because you made me, you did this. The thing is, our response is our responsibility. No matter what's going on, we have to choose that. And the truth is, just like any choice, our responses have consequences. You know, if you're an employer and you're always short with people, well, then you need to know that the people's time working for you will also be short. Right? They're not going to put up with that much longer. Or if you're a harsh person, you may notice that no one ever says anything to you about that. But you also may notice that nobody wants to do anything with you because you're harsh, right? You always say it like it is, and then people are like, can you just stop saying it like it is for just a minute, because it just gets harsh, right? You just it's rude, you know? They don't want to do that. Nobody wants to be around that. Poor responses cause poor relationships. But here's the good news. On the flip side, there's hope for all of us, because better responses can always cause better relationships. It's just a fact. Like, if I'm responding better and I'm truly thinking of you and those type of, doing the things we're talking about, the relationships get better. And this is really the difference between a reaction and a response. You know, reactions are kind of fast and emotional. They're always kind of, this is what I'm thinking right now, I haven't thought this over. But it's fast and emotional. A response is decided. And it's typically rational. It's just trying to think it through and kind of go, okay, this makes more sense. It's kind of thinking it over. And you always want to have a response versus a reaction, but in the heat of the moment, it's kind of hard to do that. Now, it's also hard to know, well, what is a good response? Someone says something, pushes your button, or maybe just drives you crazy, or you're just not even sure how to respond. How do you know if it's a good response? And here's what I would tell you. I think wise responses kind of look like, they really have three things. And they all start with a C, and I apologize for that. I didn't mean to do it, but if it helps you memorize it, then great. Wise responses are really calm, clear, and concise. That's what I found. Like, the best responses are calm, clear, and concise. Let me talk about those for a second, because I really want to land, just kind of talk through that. I want to be calm, because if I'm not, then what am I doing? I'm escalating the conflict. I'm perpetuating. I'm throwing gas on the flame. I'm going to, if I'm not careful, my emotions are going to make this thing cause way more damage than it needs to. The thing is, I want to be able to speak out of calm and not chaos. How do we say things that we don't mean? Because we feel like being mean. That's why. Because the emotion's there. And we're not calm. And we just react. And sometimes to be calm, let's be honest, you need to just take a minute. There's nothing wrong with looking at a person and saying, I don't want to say something stupid. Can you give me a minute to think about this and let's talk? It's okay to do that. That's actually a smart thing to do sometimes. It's like, I don't want to not be calm, but I'm going to need a minute to get calm back, to be able to speak out of that and not this chaos I feel inside of me. That's a wise thing to do. That's calm. Also, you want to be clear, and we all know what clear means. Like, this is my response. It's very simple. It's from the heart. I'm clear. But I want you to understand, there is a thin line between clarity and cruelty. Because some folks can be so clear that it's cruel, right? And it's kind of in this mode to kind of say whatever's on your mind and say what you really think. Well, let's just be honest. Some thoughts don't need to ever be let out. They need to be dealt with in us, but we certainly don't need to fire them at another person. And that's where, to me, clarity is being vulnerable to help someone. I'm telling you what I really think. I'm being vulnerable because I want to help. Cruelty is hurting someone when they're vulnerable. Another phrase we say around here, we kick someone when they're down, kind of thing. That's what that is. That just means I've got you in a spot, I'm just going to throw the bombs, kind of a thing. We don't want to do that. Clarity is not cruelty. So make sure when we're being clear, we're not doing that. But the other thing is concise, and this is the easy one. Concise is there because rambling is fertile ground for regret. right? Have you ever said, I'm going to wing this, and then you just crashed this? You ever done that? Like, I'm pretty sure I know what I'm talking about. About 15 minutes later, you're like, what have I said? And why did I say all those things? And what is wrong with me? Like, what just happened? Like, you just got lost. Like, we drove all over the track, kind of thing. Keeping your response simple will keep you out of so much trouble. It keeps you from getting the flag for unnecessary roughness, right? It's just, I'm just going to keep it simple. And I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to just kind of drive around in the weeds. I don't want to do that. Slow to speak. This is a tough one. I'm choosing to respond instead of react. And I want to respond calm, clear, and concise. So maybe that is something that will really help you this week. Let's look at this last one, though, because it's tough. All these are tough. They're all super tough. You must all be slow to get angry. Man, emotion is a fog where good decisions are rarely made, right? When emotion kicks in and the fog sets in, it's hard to make a good decision. The trick is noticing when you're in the fog. That's the hard part, isn't it? Right? Because I don't know about for me, but sometimes I can get in the fog and I don't even know I'm in the fog, and someone's like, did you know you're angry? And I'm like, yeah, no. I thought I was just being very bold. I don't know what I thought. I didn't really catch it. And now I'm like, oh man, I think I'm upset. When our buttons are pushed, we got to build the reflex of pumping the brake, or you are going to be on a fast train to a little place called Regretville. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to be in a lot of regret, and you're going to say some things that you're going to be apologizing for a long, long time. I want to be honest. I am not proud of really anything I've ever said when I was angry. I don't look back on my life and go, man, when I was angry, those were the moments that I really shined. I don't think that's true. I look back at a lot of times and go, I wish I hadn't said that, or I wish I had responded differently. But in the moment when you're angry, you don't remember that your entire history with this of giving into anger is not a good idea. Just giving into anger sounds like the good idea, right? The very next verse, the very next verse in James, right after the one that we just read, is this one, James 1:20, and it says this: human anger doesn't produce the holy life that God wants. And what I think that's interesting is that when you really think about this, you're never going to look at the damage caused by anger and be happy about it. I mean, anger tricks you into thinking that what I'm doing is right, when in reality what you're doing is wrong. But you can't see it, and you are normally able, right, to discern between right and wrong. But anger puts that fog in, puts that haze in there where you can't quite tell the difference anymore. And we do things that we regret. And anger kind of forces you into a choice. Because when you experience anger, there's really only two things you can do. You can let it out, or you can work it out. And everything in you wants to let it out, right? Like, I've got to tell you, I've had it, and it's just that moment, right? Whether it's passive-aggressive or good old-fashioned, just aggressive, right? Whatever that is, we are always going to be tempted to let it out. And there's a lot of ways. We yell at somebody, or you pout and run off, like, right? You take your ball and go home. That's the same thing. Or just attack somebody, right? Here's where the cops have to come in, kind of thing. It's just, you just get angry. You just get like, you lose it. And those kind of moments happen. Yet, if I let it out, here's the thing you have to remember. If I let it out, you have a 100% guarantee of hurting someone else. Maybe not physically, but definitely emotionally. Definitely hurting the relationship. And the hard part is everything seems fine and right and justified in that moment. But none of it is. That's the hard part about it. So what can you do? The other option, if you're not going to let it out, is you got to work it out. And what that really means is before there's damage, there needs to be discussion. Before you and I do damage, before this gets bad, we need to talk, we need to discuss before the damage sets in. Somehow we've got to do this. It's having that moment where you can pause and call a timeout. Go, whoa, timeout. Is there any way we can defuse this bomb before it explodes? Because you and I are both lighting this thing, and we're watching the thing go down, and it's going to blow. Is there any way we can defuse this thing now? Can we talk this out? And for a lot of times, that means you're going to be the first person that takes a step out of emotion into resolution. And that's a decision you have to make, because sometimes that person will not come with you. But you need to keep stepping, because the point of what you're trying to do is you're trying to call a timeout, stop the momentum of what's happening, and try to find the way out. That we may not agree on this, right, but we certainly don't have to do it like this. Let's find the way out. Let's start to talk through this. And it doesn't even mean you'll find the resolution quickly. You may not find it in that moment. You may not even find it in that day, right? It may be something we've got to keep talking through and working through. But here's the point. We're talking. We're not yelling. Right? Somebody called a timeout and said, whoa, before this gets out of hand, we both love each other. We don't want to hurt each other. So how can let's talk this out in a different way. Let's kind of maybe take a break, come back. I don't know, what do we need to do? But we got to diffuse this before it blows up. One more thing about trying to hit the brakes when you're angry. This is Colossians 3:13 says this. It says, put up with each other and forgive anyone who does you wrong, just as Christ has forgiven you. Love is more important than anything else. Here's what's so funny. This is not like what I would call a marriage verse, but this is absolutely 100% a marriage verse. I don't care what anybody says. This isn't the one maybe you want read on your wedding day, but maybe the next day you want to read this one, right? Because it's just super important. Put up with each other. It almost seems funny that the Bible would say that, like, put up with each other? Really? Why? Why would we put up with each other? Because we love each other. There are things you're just going to have to put up with. There are just things that you go, I don't like that. Because let me tell you what's loving. Loving is extending grace to someone who drives you nuts. It is. Because you know the truth is, we drive other people nuts too. And we want people to show us grace, but we have a hard time, right? I don't know if I want to show grace. We need to extend grace to each other, because we all make mistakes every day. And if we don't extend grace and we don't forgive, then we're missing the whole point. I love this verse because it says, forgive them because you've been forgiven. The great thing is we can forgive because every day we're forgiven. That's the challenge in us. No matter what happens to us, at some point we've got to be able to let this go in some kind of way. And what does that mean? You know, and there's lots of things. The point of this is that we need lots of grace so that we can try again. And other people need lots of grace too, so they can try again. And I recognize there are certain very serious situations here where sometimes the only way this is going to work out is for you to get out of the situation where things have gotten very serious. And that's not really what I'm speaking to. I'm talking about the stuff every day when we get on each other's nerves kind of stuff. Like putting up with each other, that's super important. So when I look at this verse, James 1:19, being quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. When I think about that verse, the truth is I actually teach this verse probably every year, because every day I need this verse. Every day I need to remember this, because every time I read James 1:19, I learn something new about myself. I really do. And I see something I can improve. Like as a pastor, I see where I struggle with being quick to listen, because sometimes we'll all talk about a problem and like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I know what we can do. And I just jump in, right? And sometimes I need to slow down, listen, because when I listen, I learn. And sometimes when you're leading something or doing something, sometimes that, you know, that just becomes a struggle. Secondly, I think as a husband, I struggle with being slow to speak. You know, like I said, I speak my mind. Our family, we speak our mind. But what's funny about that is when your thoughts are stupid, your words are just as stupid, right? It's like, well, I speak my mind. Well, that's great. But if the mind's not awesome, right, and the thoughts aren't good, then you know what's going to come out the same, right? And I'm going to tell you that my wife, Carrie, has had a lot of patience with me when I've said something. She's like, I don't know if you probably, you might want to think about that. She's had so much patience with me over the years, and I'm very grateful for that. As a father, this is where I struggle with slow to get angry, because you know how this is when you have kids. You know what I mean? Like, this is the fourth time I've told them to clean their room, right? And it's like the first time it was a mention. The second time I was like, raise my voice a little bit more. the third time, I'm like, what do I have to do? Like jump in here with a chicken suit and like scream? I mean, what do I have to do to get their attention? You know, kind of thing. And it starts to make you a little frustrated, right? Kids are amazing, but they can be frustrating. And sometimes they'll push your buttons and press in at times that you're just like, I'm stressed, I'm tired, I don't know about this, right? But I have to remember this. We set the example and the tone on how to handle frustration. My kids are going to handle frustration as we handle it, right? They're going to see us handle it, and that's how they're going to handle it. And my words as a dad weigh a lot in those situations. And sometimes what you feel like saying because you're tired or you're angry is definitely not what you need to say, because you got to snap out of it and realize, like, I'm this person's dad, and those words mean a lot more. And what are they going to remember, right? You know, those kind of things. So I see the areas when I look at James 1:19, I see where I need to work constantly every time I read this verse. But I also see God's grace. Because you know what the truth is that every time I've messed up with this, God's not angry at me. God's already forgiven me. Same for you. But you know what he also wants me to listen to him. He wants me not just to read words like this, but to work them into my life, to take these things seriously. He wants me to listen to his Holy Spirit in situations and read that and kind of go, okay, God, what are you saying to me? What are you trying to teach me? And I realize that I have a lot to learn from a very willing and gracious teacher. So what do we do with all this, right? We've talked about this. And this verse is like right there, kind of sitting in our face. What do we do? Let me tell you, I want to do two things. I'm going to make this really easy on us, okay? First one is this. Just want you to pick one of these three things and just start to work on it this week. Start trying to work it into situations. Pick one that you know, like, this is one I need to work on. And let's be honest, the first time you do it or the second time you do it, you're going to mess up, right? You're going to go, I'm going to be slow to get angry, and all of a sudden you're, you know what happens? And then you're like, oh, what happened? Okay, well, I've got to go back and try again. Just move on. If you mess up, move on, try again. Okay, keep trying. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you will implement one of these in this week into your conversations, you will notice a difference. I mean, God will use it in your life. I'm telling you, when you work Scripture in and you really try to do it, you'd be amazed at just the things that God will do in your life. It's crazy. The second thing is this. I want us to learn this verse. It's not that long, right? You can learn it, but we've come up with a cool way to do this because everybody, like I said earlier, has a phone. And you look at it, I don't know, a billion times a day. I mean, we look at it all the time, right? We just look at it. And so what we've decided to do is do something kind of interesting. If you will text image to 94,000, check this out. This wallpaper will be sent to you. You actually can download it off the site. Text image will send you a link. Boom, you'll get the wallpaper. And you can put this wallpaper on your phone, and then every time you literally light up your phone, bam, that verse is right there. I've already got it on my phone, ready to start looking at it and just start memorizing it and remember. Sometimes you just need this reminder, you know what I'm saying, throughout the week of, right? It helps to look at it, have that reference right there for you. So we're providing that. That's free. You can get that text image to 94,000. I want to encourage you to do that right now. Don't listen. You know, if you miss me for the next few minutes, I don't care. But go get this right now, or pause this, or whatever you got to do to get this, because you'll be glad that you did. Here's my prayer for us. May life at home be more peaceful and just a little easier because we did the hard work of trying to move toward these home essentials of being quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Let's pray together. Father, right now, will you help us to apply this tough text? It's so easy to read, but yet it's so difficult. Father, I just pray for every person who takes a step in faith, even for people who go, listen, I don't even know if I believe the Bible, but I definitely want to try this. For every single person who takes a step of faith, Father, I pray that you will meet them right where they are. That engaging this in our conversations, in our situations, in our relationships, will help us see your presence even more in areas that we've never maybe seen it before. God, may we follow you with all of our hearts. May we always see in the end that your way has always been the best way for us. May you stretch us and grow us this week. In Jesus' name, amen. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for joining us online. If you're watching this live, it's not too late to run up here and be a part of our food truck Sunday. We're really excited about it this Sunday. If not, we will see you here next week for part 2 of Ready to Rumble. We'll see you then.